Mate, Dubai, what's the thinking behind that?
A couple of reasons. One, get the guys away again. We think we got a benefit out of that last year, taking them to London for the exhibition game. Secondly, the heat in Dubai is a big factor. It's probably only going to be sort of early to mid 30s, but it's a really consistent heat throughout the day, and it's a really good environment. Thirdly, the facility that we're going to is outstanding. It's a world-class facility, and I've had a bit of experience there with the Socceroos. We did a lot of training in Dubai, and we really got a fair bit of benefit out of it from a heat training point of view. And so it was an easy decision in the end.
Trips like this, is it as much about the sort of getting away as a group and the bonding and that sort of thing as it is the work that you do?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a good balance, and for our young group to get them all together again, we think we got a lot of benefit out of last year. So yeah, absolutely. But don't be mistaken, it'll be hard work for them. So.
Darren, the program last year's shown its results on the field. What do you got to do next? Is it the same or more to it this time around?
Yeah, you'd like to think you have to add a little bit more. Obviously the rotation cap coming in, that's going to make it a more physically demanding game from an endurance point of view. So we certainly like to think we need to add a little bit more to our program for sure, which is a challenge because we get 3 weeks less than what we did last year, and I think it's 4 weeks less than a lot of other clubs. So for the bulk of our group, so it's a challenge, but the boys are up to it. They're training pretty hard as it is, and yeah, I think we'll be okay.
Is it training harder or training smarter?
Smarter, definitely smarter.
So how can you define that when thrown along like training smarter? How do people then envisage that?
Just making more efficient use of your training time, because if you train too hard, then obviously overtraining and injuries can result. So making sure the intensity's up, and when you're training, you're actually training and not wasting time training, I guess.
So what in particular do you get out of Dubai that you wouldn't get in the sand pit, the sand dunes of Adelaide?
Well, firstly, like I said, the heat and humidity over there is far more consistent than what it is here in December, or late November. So we're excited about that. Secondly, we have unlimited use of Dubai Sports City over there, which the guys will rock up there at 9 in the morning and leave at 4 in the afternoon, and a change of landscape, a change of environment as well is an important thing. But the facility, the heat, and if you like, removing themselves from this sort of environment, I think is a positive thing for them.
How long have you been an advocate for heat training over altitude training?
Probably about 4 years now. Altitude training is very good. I'm certainly not a critique of it, but probably in my opinion anyway, it's not ideal for team sports in November when the season starts in March, April. So for individual sports and things like that, outstanding, and for events, Olympic events and things like that, absolutely outstanding. The research is excellent on that, but the research about team sports starting in March and going away. But I think you find a lot of the teams that do go to altitude camps go for the other reasons that we spoke about earlier, for getting the team away and for the additional training that it allows you to do.
Darren, the club's expecting you to use the word work a miracle with John Butcher. How are you going to handle that one?
Butcher's okay. He's obviously had some serious hip operations before my time here, but he's tracking along okay. We got as good a result out of him as we could last year. Look, I'd be surprised if he doesn't have a better year from a physical point of view than what he did last year for sure.
What will he do?
Just a normal training, yeah. He'll probably start a little bit later, and we just have to monitor Butcher a bit closely, because all the guys who've had double hip operations, if you go back through, there's a few guys in the league that have had that, and they've all come good, but it's taken probably a good 12 months for that to happen.
Have you assessed some of the new guys like Matty White?
Yeah, look, we've had a look at him, and the thing with someone like Matty White, if you have a look at his game profile and his games played that he did last year, he was pretty consistent up until a little hammy injury at the end, but his running power and speed and running profile is just going to suit the AFL next year. It's just, from my point of view, I'm excited to work with someone like him for sure.
Just to
Jared
get back on-
Polex opted for Port if he can. Why do you think he's made that decision? What makes you guys more attractive than?
Oh, look, I'm not too sure. We presented to him and gave him a program and some stuff to go away with, and we just presented what the club might look like and how he might fit into that, and it's good news that he's said that. Having said that, I'm sure plenty more things can happen between now and the end of the trade window. But yeah, it's nice to know that his preference would be to come to us.
Do you feel a bit of pride? Do you think your work here is a bit of a factor?
Oh, you'd have to ask him that. I'm not too sure. Yeah. Look, I sat down with him a few times, and he's been around the place a little bit. So he's been really impressive, and hopefully he comes to us. Yeah.
Your reputation obviously is growing by the day with the work you're doing here. Other clubs sort of been interested in you? Do you get a call to see maybe just test the waters?
No, I think they know that, I've only been here a year, so and they know that I'm here for the long term. So yeah, and if that's happening, that's a good thing. But yeah, I'm pretty happy here.
Have you looked at Polek's profile, his fitness profile?
Yeah, it's been a bit harder for him because he hasn't played as many games. So it's a little bit harder to do. He's had a few ankle injuries and things like that. But at the moment, he's all clear, so he's ready to go.
You guys went so well in terms of fitness. Are you proud of what you were able to achieve in your first year back at the club?
Oh, I think, yeah, it's been great. A lot was said of it, and rightly or wrongly, but I think the work that the whole fitness and coaching team did was excellent. So, look, a lot of it comes from having a really sort of harmonious group within the coaching and the fitness department. The fitness staff that I inherited were just absolutely outstanding, and normally when someone in this position comes in, they move everybody around because they're not happy, but within a month I knew that there was a really good group here, so it's certainly a team effort, and they've all been outstanding.
They can get better?
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, the profile of our group, I'm not too sure of the age profile, but we're the third youngest, so they're going to become more robust and more mature. So yeah, I'm confident that they'll get better.
Darren, just concerned by what you see at the Socceroos at the moment?
Look, as I've said before, my greatest passion is the Australian soccer team. So they had a good win against Canada. So yeah, hopefully they put the right coach in and everything works out for Brazil. So yeah, obviously playing Brazil and France are not great results. But hopefully they can turn it around.
You know the organisation pretty well. Do you think there's a preference towards an international coach too in Australia?
Frank Lowy came out and said, Australian coach. So hopefully that's the case. As a patriotic Aussie, I hope one of our guys get the gig for sure.
Darren, just to go back to John Butcher, what would a solid pre-season mean to him?
Evidently Butch played his best footy when I wasn't here. So to be able to get someone like him in our team, from what everybody tells me, will just be outstanding as a tall marking forward, pressure player, all the stuff that he brings. So in order to do that, he needs to have a pretty consistent pre-season. So it would mean a whole lot to all of us to get him up and going for the season for sure.
What's the read on his body?
Again, he's anybody who's had multiple hip stuff. It's not an easy read for sure, but he came back, and I'm not too sure how many games he played last year, but he played a whole bunch before getting pretty fatigued towards the end of the year. But I think that's probably a good get. I think Vardy from Geelong, it took him about 14 or 15 months to get right, and John's in about that category now, so hopefully we're going to see the best of him next season.
You were away from AFL for about 5 years. So
yep.
You're surprised to come back into an environment and within a few months you got the peptides and supplements scandal and that. Can I just ask you about how much has changed from when you left to when you came back in that sort of area?
When I left in 2007, we had me and a strength coach. That was it for 44 players, and now we've got 5 full-time in the staff. So certainly the professionalism and the emphasis placed on sports medicine and sports science has increased for sure. So I guess whenever that perceived pressure comes in, people are going to look for those extra 1%ers, and it's happening in world sport, not just in footy. It's just probably footy was seen as being pretty clean, and by and large it is. It's just been one situation that's come up, I guess. So I think whenever you get extra scrutiny and pressure on a sport, there's always going to be people looking for that extra percent, whether legally or illegally.
Did what happened at Essendon, does that force you to change your thoughts or philosophies or anything?
No, we have a pretty simple regime here, and you know, from both a supplement point of view and a training point of view, so that hasn't changed anything that we've done for sure. The AFL are going to bring in new rules and regulations, but you know, we're okay with that and we encourage it.
What should they bring in? Are you recommending, you know, a cap or certain substances that get ticked off? Or
yeah, I think that's probably a reasonable reaction to the situation. They're bringing in certain substances and potentially certain companies that you can and can't get your supplements from, and I think that's probably pretty reasonable given what's happened for sure. And that, again, we welcome that. That's no problem.
Players will partially fund their trip. Was that player driven or is that?
Yeah, absolutely, player driven. There was no pressure from us to do that. It's just a great sign of the group and the characters that we've got. You know, the guys are coming back a week early and partially funding the trip. It's just, you know, it's something for people like me to get excited about when they volunteer to do that.
So is it all players going?
They are, yep. All players going.
So just in layman's terms, what's the benefits of heat training?
Well, you imagine if you go out and work in 35 degrees versus 25 degrees, obviously everything's a bit harder. You know, the physiological adaptation is a bit greater, but in layman's terms, you're getting more bang for your buck. You're actually working harder to complete the same amount of work. Similar to when you go to somewhere that's got less oxygen, you're working harder to get the same amount of work. Carlton went 2 years ago and did a really good study on heat and altitude at the same time, and that's kind of the first study that shows that what we've all, or some of us have suspected, that heat gives you a greater benefit, and that's all it is. You just sweat a bit more and adapt a bit quicker to the hard work when you're at higher temperatures.
Is AFL, is that the most demanding team sport in the world?
I think it is, yeah, absolutely. The combination of speed, endurance, agility and strength, it's, as well as the physical contact, you know, most people would argue that that's the case for sure. And even, you know, we're in London last week for the Leaders in Performance conference, and most people over there, once they saw the vision that Clarko put up about AFL, just like, wow, we didn't realise, you know, how demanding it is.